evening and welcome to the Thursday, July 22nd, 2021 regular meeting of the school committee. We have just returned from an executive session, and at this time call the meeting to order, and we will rise for those who are able and willing to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so the first item on our agenda is public comment. I do not see anyone here in the studio. I don't know if anybody has any public comment that to share. So that then brings us down. Are there any recognitions? Let's see if anybody. Okay. Great. So then that will bring us into our old business, which we have kind of carried forward a few meetings, which is the discussion of our norms. And just for background for our viewers, every year the school committee looks at the norms of how we do business, and we update them as we feel is appropriate for the committee in terms of what helps us work more efficiently and more meaningfully for and on behalf of our community. So at this point, do people have a copy of which it is in the packet, the old norms, but as well as the MASC document that we have? Because I can share it again if anybody needs another copy. Do you want to?
I have the packet. Did you say it's in the packet?
The existing norms that we were working off of from last year are in the packet. What is not in the packet but was by email I can send to you is the MASC document that had some questions on it, and it also had, I like the way that document organizes the norms, which is different from ours have always just been kind of here are the norms.
Yeah, that would help, thanks.
But I like the way the MASC document does
That's
it.
this
That
one,
exactly.
yeah.
So let me just
And you have the same one. Yeah.
share this. All right. I'm gonna find.
Okay, I found it.
Let me see if I can.
It was in the previous email. SC, yeah. Just, I think it may see Nancy's email.
Right, I had sent it previously,
Yeah.
but let me see.
I have it.
Oh, you
Thank
do have it,
Yeah.
okay. So, one of the things we wanted to do was to try to bring it to the beginning of the meeting so we'd be a little bit fresher to consider some of these things, because they are important in terms of efficiency and how we do business. Do we want to start with, let's start with the MASC document, if that's okay with people.
Yes.
Let's pull that. So I know some of what goes on that worksheet, some of us did in a prior workshop, but it doesn't matter if you didn't. I think you can look at what I would want to do is even just to kind of briefly look down and consider if there are pieces that you have concerns about that we want to incorporate into our norms. So just kind of starting with the committee room layout. I know this is a nicer
I
layout.
like this whole, is this basically like a sample from the MASC of what school committees could adopt?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in favor of starting fresh like that, and
Yeah.
maybe we could look, if there's a paragraph we don't like or is troublesome,
Yeah.
we could remove it. Would that work too, or?
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
just kind of by history, the ones that we have, a couple of years ago, we did exactly that. We scrapped the norms and we
Okay.
started, although we wrote ours from scratch, I think.
I think we did.
Yeah.
We did.
In kind of working through, I think there are some things that we've now come across and learned along the way that we could tweak and start fresh and take pieces from this as well as pieces from old norms as we like.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
So do you want to start then, Joe, with looking at the document itself as opposed to the questions and flagging concerns? Is that what you're?
I think so, yeah, I mean,
Yep.
I've read through this protocols and best practices for
Yep.
effective school committee meetings from the MASC, and I haven't yet found something I don't like in it, and I think it would it work that we, as a default, would work towards adopting this, and then we could have discussion tonight on any modifications to it?
Yeah.
If there's a paragraph that's troublesome or too ambiguous, or we could remove it, or if there's something that's not here that we want, I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So the first piece is, do we want to look at the introductory paragraph, a word about norms and beliefs? Do we want a preamble, so to speak, into our document? And are there pieces of this that we want to take out? If we're going to assume this is the document we have, is there anything in that first paragraph that people see?
I don't know that we need to have this sentence. Many people think it is demeaning and condescending to attempt to prescribe behaviors on those whom the people have chosen to represent them, and we could
I would
put
agree with that.
but I think it's not necessary, that sentence.
That's interesting. Yeah, it is. It's true. But we don't need to say it here.
I think I like the first two sentences. Then it goes into the demeaning and condescending, and then it goes into why Mask did this, which we don't need to have in our own preamble at all.
Where is this?
Yep,
in the
so
word
you're,
about
so
norms?
you're right, we don't need the part that talks about what Mask has done.
Right, exactly. However, the very last sentence, democracy demands the individual use one's best judgment as one perceives it, rather than succumbing to the will of another, whether it is resolving a matter of policy, fulfilling your fiduciary responsibilities, or providing leadership. So maybe the first two sentences, and then, I don't know, maybe that one's a little too harsh too, I don't know. I definitely like the first two.
Okay, so the first two sentences,
Yeah, the rest of it is guidance for creating your own
So
norms.
delete starting at the word many, is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
and then getting rid of all the rest of that paragraph.
Yep.
So then that brings us down, I like the way that they've headed how we govern.
Yeah, I like that too.
I also like that first norm, because I think this can confuse a lot of people, that we acknowledge that a school committee meeting is a meeting of the school committee that is held in public, not a public meeting, and we will make sure to make every effort, and we will make every effort to ensure that committee meetings are effective and efficient. So that's, I think not always understood, kind of the difference between a meeting that occurs in public, which is, we're bound by open meeting law, versus a public meeting where people can kind of come in, and some of our meetings are public forums or are public hearings and whatnot, but we do follow an agenda that is prescribed to kind of what we're allowed to talk about.
So you're advocating to keep the first paragraph, is that what you're
I
saying?
am, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
also open to
Yeah,
what
I
other
agree.
people's
Yeah.
thinking is on that. Okay.
Nancy, where are our norms as we wrote them 3 years ago?
In the packet,
In the,
Okay.
because some of them I think we want to marry into the document.
second one is, this is going to be hard for the public to follow along because they don't have this document
Yep,
unless they
so
just
if we
Googled
could
it
read
and
it
found
out loud,
Yeah,
I guess
so
would be
number
helpful.
2 is, I like, school committee members agree to thoughtfully seek and support solutions that will provide the greatest benefit to students. Once the school committee has taken action, committee members will support the official position of the school committee.
Yep.
That's a good one.
I like that.
We've all seen cases where that doesn't happen and it's not good, so it's good to state it as an expectation. It is the responsibility of, number 3 is responsibility of the superintendent to oversee hiring, evaluation, and handling of personnel issues. It's responsible of the school committee to evaluate the superintendent's effectiveness in these matters. I think the unspoken thing there is we're not to get involved in the personnel operations of the superintendent.
Correct. And I also want to say, I'm just positioned, so I'm looking at them, but I also, if you guys have stuff that you want to add to, that you think is, and I know that you guys have experience of being on school committees, so that's also valuable from that lens, but please, I'm not trying to ignore you, I'm just.
Well, they're the first ones to suffer when we don't
well, that's-
operate well.
Right,
So we
and
want
that's
to hear
why
from
I
you.
think your opinions and your thoughts on this is important.
I'm not sure if it comes up later, but our existing norms, number number 7 says members will exercise leadership in vision planning and policy making, evaluation and advocacy on behalf of the students in the district, not in managing the day-to-day operations of the district. That is a little bit more specific than
Yeah.
limiting. Their number 3 talks really about hiring, evaluation, and handling of personnel issues. So
Could
I
we?
think ours was a little broader.
Yeah, I like the one you just read too, Nancy. Could we keep their 3, but add that 2 after 3? I mean, not.
At our
two.
7.
So they have 1, 2, 3. I just read 3, and you read another one. Could it go right there? After MASC's 3? I don't think they're redundant. I think the one you just read from our existing norms kind of expands a little bit on MASC's how we govern number 3. Do you agree?
I'm going back and forth between the.
Our number
documents.
three?
Our number
I'm asking
7.
Amanda.
Oh, is our, I think so. I think
Okay.
our number 7 could be
Inserted after their number 3.
inserted after
Yep.
their number 3. Do you have a number 7?
Yep.
I liked, so, sorry, I'm going back to number 2 quickly. When I first read it, I thought it was a little prescriptive, like I was kind of a little frustrated by it, but their little, like, footnote about it
The footnotes are
really
good.
helps.
Yeah, the footnotes are really good.
So we'll keep the
Yep.
footnotes too.
Yeah, because what it says is some individuals object to this provision because it stifles dissent and disagreement, but it is important to note that supporting the official position of the school committee does not preclude principled disagreement or future attempts to change policy, but simply not to undermine the work.
I think that's important.
I think it's super
Yeah.
It's nice to have
important.
the
Yeah.
footnote.
And I think we also have had some principled disagreements, and I wouldn't want to discourage that, because a lot of times that brings out something better
Right.
in the end when we can all.
I'm fine with the remainder of how we govern.
Yep, me too.
I really like this MASC document. I like how they break it down, how we govern, how we communicate, how we improve.
I don't ever remember looking at this part of it.
No, neither do I. I don't think we
It's a
saw it.
nice, it was a nice find.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's very helpful. I guess that's what they're there for.
Yeah. It's
Could
very
we have
clear
those MASC
That way we don't
ones?
have to,
to
you know,
reinvent. Yeah.
reinvent all this. They've been through it many times.
So how we communicate,
So
move on to that.
I like number 1, but I do have a thing with number 2. I know it's minor, but I think there will be no surprises if possible, because
Yep.
this past year, you're getting a school committee like packet the day before and you're trying to, or 2 days before, and you're trying to figure out what to do and you miss something. And then unfortunately there's a surprise, not on purpose, but just because there was so much going on.
Yep.
So
Can we s-
I think if possible,
Could we say we'll strive to avoid
we'll
surprises?
strive to avoid surprises. Yeah, something of that sort. Yeah, that's perfect.
There's also just ordinary human error and forgetfulness that will get in our
I think
way.
what they're getting at is like a member who might want to sabotage the meeting or something, and
Drop a,
yeah,
something
like
that-
gotcha.
Well, and I think also.
And we wouldn't
when
want that.
No, we wouldn't, but I think also when people know what questions and information they're seeking
Right.
in the meeting, to pass those along to Dr. Kavanaugh in advance, so that she's not caught without the opportunity to look for the information. If she
exactly.
needs to go to a principal or somebody else to find it. We had talked about this a little bit in the very first conversation we had about norms and discussions, and talked about the, how we want to convey, in the past, we've done different things, like trying to get the packets to us by Friday when possible, and I know in the past year, that was very difficult because we were meeting weekly, and so it was hard to plan for the following week before we had finished one meeting, so that the packets were coming out late, and as a result, it was difficult to get questions in a more
Yeah.
timely manner that we had on the packet. Prior to last year, when things were more quote-unquote normal, the packets were getting to us almost always by Friday, and the expectation was that we would have the weekend then to look through it, or the very beginning of the week and try to get questions to Carol or to the superintendent by sometime in the middle of Tuesday to allow the gathering of materials. Is that, and where possible, because obviously life happens and there might be times when you're not able to get to it and something happens on another end. But does that seem like a workable
Yeah.
piece?
Yeah.
I think so. Is that a paragraph we would customize and put in this section, how we communicate?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard other members talk about how do we make school committee more possible for more volunteers, right?
Right.
And I think one of the things that's difficult is if it becomes a full-time job on the days when you don't have the meeting.
Right.
It's not really possible
Yeah.
for many people who
Right.
could otherwise be qualified. So that's why, like, I would always advocate for yes, wherever possible.
Right.
And we've all had weeks like that where we can't, but wherever possible, to school committee members will, of course, we won't converse with each other because that violates open
Right.
meeting law, but we would, where possible, direct questions to superintendent. But I would say I don't expect an answer from the superintendent privately before the meeting. I would just say, here's what my questions are, and I'm not expecting a list of questions and answers at the meeting
Yep.
either. I just would hope that that would inform how the superintendent or whichever other staff
Yeah.
delivers their presentation that
Yeah.
day.
I would agree with that entirely, actually, that I think that would allow, when you're making present, and I don't just mean you, I'm looking at everybody, but when you're giving a presentation back to us for something that's in the packet, if we get you questions, not feeling like you need to spend, forever responding to 5 individuals, but to
No.
just in the back of your head,
Yeah.
know those are questions we have, and, you can take them as you will, and not saying you have to tailor your presentation to us, because we can bring the questions then to the meeting, but does that seem like,
Oh, I think that's a lot easier.
Yeah,
Otherwise, the question could be asked in public session, but could also be asked privately, so you do it twice, and I think it eliminates the redundancy.
yeah. I don't want to take up 25% of your time each week, you answering us questions, offline, So, I don't know what the wording is for that. That would be a new norm, but you could jot some notes down, and we don't have to approve final
Yeah.
language tonight,
we're not
but you
gonna
make some
approve,
notes.
we'll
Okay.
get it cleaned up, and Georgette can include it in the packet for approval or revision, depending on how many times we want
Okay.
to talk about it.
Having lived in the pre-pandemic life, the packet on Friday, questions in the beginning of the week, felt really good. It was
Yeah.
comfortable because then you can figure out on the weekend when you have time to look at the packet
Yeah.
thoughtfully, and, I'm sure it was much better for the administration. Last year was just different, but I like the Friday packet and then Monday, Tuesday questions.
Well, because it was that constant last year of moving from one
Right,
meeting
and
to the
I
next.
think
yeah.
that's why with the norm wording, that's why I was like, whenever possible, or what you said, we will strive
Yeah.
to, because I was like, yeah, this past year, and we don't know when there'll be surprises on our end that we have to deal with. Yeah. Okay.
So number 3,
So have we been, I mean, I feel like we mostly do an okay job with this, but
I don't think it's really been an issue for us. I think there have been very few emergency things that have had to be added, because they have to go through the town clerk if they're added before that. I also feel like we try to open it up, future agenda items that want to be brought back, and certainly people can also email. It's not, it's all of our agenda of how we're going to run things, so. I think I don't know how we want to.
I think it's good. It hasn't been a problem for us, but it's a good one to keep in there.
I think so too. Did we have that in our ordinary?
I do not.
I don't think we did. Right. Oh, well, yes, we did.
Did we? What
Number 8. Because I like the footnote here. That, if something comes up
Yeah.
that we have to address, we have that authority, the chair, the superintendent to. So,
Truly, that's an open meeting law.
It
It
is.
really isn't
Yeah,
a
yeah.
norm.
It's
It's really legal.
yeah.
Right.
But
And
sure, we can put it
the
in.
town clerk would not allow us to add if we couldn't sell it as an emergency, but it's I think, fine to add it in,
Yeah.
kind of as an expectation, that we wouldn't try to add something in that would not be truly detrimental not to add to the agenda.
On number 4, Georgette keeps the sort of master rhythm of the year,
So,
more or less, doesn't she?
But we do get a planning calendar, right? We just approved one, right? Our calendar for the year for school
Yeah.
committee.
Yep.
we did, but I think this also has to do with the agenda, the actual, like, flow of the year of, so at particular times, we're looking to, we have to review the
Plans.
So,
Right.
This is
so
the
like
budget
right
time of
now,
year.
I may say, oh, last fall or the fall before, we had all this bus stuff. So we should make sure that we address the bus stuff at
In
the end of the
August,
summer.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense.
So that's something that we have done that in the past, that has been shared. I think that might be worth, I don't- separate from whether it's in the norms or not, but might be worthwhile for people to have that calendar to, as a, just the expectation of what's coming up when. It's just a quick document to share.
Yeah.
Do we
Yeah.
want it in the norms?
I like it. I like it. The idea of having a planning calendar that the themes of each season, you know, budgets are here,
Yeah.
busing is here,
Yeah.
town meeting prep, of course, some are obvious, but then also the contract renewal dates and things like that, so we can all be prepared
Right.
and aware what's coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
So we can, that's good. Number 5, the school committee members agree to refer important questions and concerns they receive from members of the school community to the superintendent. The superintendent will investigate and provide all committee members with the information needed to respond to an issue. So I think that boils down to a lot of people will bring operational things to us that, because we're accessible to the community and we want to be accessible to the community. But often it is, it's not us who actually has the right answer.
It doesn't say operational things, though. It says, like, basically, it doesn't say all, but it doesn't qualify it in any way. I mean, some concerns the community brings to us might be squarely in our domain, right?
Sure, if they brought something related to.
But it doesn't
yeah.
hurt to tell the superintendent
Right.
those too, sure. Okay.
Right. So leave that in? Okay.
I do like, Joe, I like your clarification though, because if it's a policy question or, or budget maybe, I mean,
Yeah.
it might be something that we hear the concern, it comes forward, we make it an agenda item. It might
Yeah.
not go,
Right.
it might be something that we want to talk about that isn't,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
specifically
right.
just for the
You
superintendent.
might want to bring it to the attention of the school committee chair if it's squarely in the
Right.
policy area, for
Right.
example.
Yeah.
So how, do we want to add to the superintendent and the
Or-
school committee and/or the school committee chair?
Depending as appropriate
As
for the issue.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. School committee members will channel requests for information, reports, and data through the superintendent and the school committee chair rather than directly to staff. The superintendent will ensure that each member has equal access to this information. So this is something, and I don't have that is in
We
our
we
norms
have
already.
something like
This
that.
is tricky.
Yeah.
This is tricky, I think, for all involved, because I think Dr.
Yeah.
Kavanaugh gets asked questions
Right.
Yep.
and provides, you know, you're extraordinarily generous with answering questions. We have yet to figure out, you know, like how to share necessarily. I don't know that we share to all members effectively, like, you know, without violating open meeting law, like, we decided we can't make a shared document of our questions, because by asking a question, you could be sort of slanting an opinion that could be for deliberation.
Right.
But I'd be interested to know if anyone had any thoughts on how we can receive answers across the board, you know?
I think, sorry.
You go ahead.
I think part of the wording in here, though, is more meant to let Dr. Kavanaugh, in this case, be the filter, right? So
Yes.
determine if our
Right.
requests are something that she wants her staff to spend a lot of time answering, or if it's, something that may be orthogonal and really not affect the running of the school, and so maybe it's extraneous information that would take up a lot of time.
Yeah,
and
I
effort.
agree, and I think that's actually covered well in the wording, but I don't, it's the part that says, the superintendent will ensure that each member has equal access to this information. Like, it's not like, if you ask a question, Dr. Kavanaugh may answer you, that's great. It might be informative for the committee, but the other four wouldn't know the answer. Like, I don't know how that would get shared.
The
So I
superintendent
don't
wouldn't
know that
be
we
able
can-
to, I think you're saying the
So-
superintendent wouldn't be able to, under open meeting law,
She
to share it
could.
with
She
all of us.
could.
Or
She
could
could.
you? Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can do better at that, because sometimes I feel like maybe last year I had answers,
Yeah.
maybe not everybody had.
We have
or,
asymmetric information.
You might get something in
yeah.
policy that we don't have, like something might come up. I don't think we can resolve it necessarily here now, but I just want us to think about ways that we can
Yep.
have equal access, as it says in the norm.
And
Yeah.
I think what goes along with that, though, is how to present what was asked in a way that doesn't stimulate people wanting to have a discussion about the question, right? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
we're trying to get the information that she's returning based on the question,
Yeah.
but we're not necessarily trying to deliberate the question itself. So how do we?
So I think one way that things do get sent out would be that superintendent can send out, not for deliberation, information to all of us without identifying, to say Meg asked this,
Right.
but just to say this is information that was requested of me.
Yeah, I
Or requested
think
of
that
staff
works
and
really
wanted
well.
to.
Which you do.
Yes. Except in cases where it's appropriate to bring to a public meeting too, is that to be able to bring it forward in the meeting in some way to say, it was asked that information from the high school principal or whoever it is, and this is what it is.
Yeah. The only, so I think we all kind of like this one, right? Plus maybe more. But the only issue I had with this was, as elementary school building committee member, before coming to school committee, I had direct access to Susan, because she was a committee member.
So,
And maybe it was different under the previous superintendent too, I don't know. But then when I got on school committee, I just kept doing it the same way, and it was like, don't do that. It's like, oh, okay,
so I think it's the way that
right?
my understanding in the past has been, and jump in, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I wonder if you're asking a question as an elementary school building committee member or as a school committee member, because if you're asking a question as an elementary school building committee member, and you say, Susan, how many of those
Yeah,
have we paid?
Yeah,
And she
yeah.
says we paid $1,400,000.
yeah. I felt
worth.
a little.
That's okay.
Oh, it is,
But I
okay.
think if you're asking as a school committee member, you should ask me and I will refer the question. to
Right,
her.
okay, that's fair, yep. It's fine as is then, yep.
The superintendent intends to seek comprehensive solutions to problems and will create clear structures for decision-making. In the spirit of continuous improvement, these structures may be revisited at any time.
That one feels vague.
I was going to say, I'm not sure,
Well, that's on her,
Right.
right?
and
We
I
should
feel like
ask the
this is on a,
superintendent, yeah.
this
Yeah.
document is about how we operate.
Right.
Not necessarily telling staff how to operate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
strange, I
one-
wonder how that got in there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really
They're not
odd.
perfect,
It
okay.
is.
Do we want to scratch that one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they don't
don't- I
expect
personally-
school committee members
If
to
we
be
have
clear
superintendent
that
norms or something, if
superintendent
you want to
better be-
adopt norms for yourself,
I'm sorry, Joe, I
Put a
missed the
line
last
through
thing you
that.
said.
if the superintendent would care to draft norms for her own behavior, she could choose to
You can-
consider this one, I guess, but it's not really our norm. Okay,
The superintendent and school committee recognize the importance of working collaboratively with city, I would term that to town officials, to improve our schools, and we will actively seek ways to enlist their support in our efforts.
So in this section,
Yep.
I think we need to add what Joe brought up the previous time, and it's here in other norms, beliefs, and protocols, et cetera, that we may want to consider, but creating an environment for full and free debate for civil discourse in a safe environment. So the whole idea that we are free to disagree, even passionately sometimes, but without any personal attacks coming into it. And that we are not striving for homogeneity in decisions, right? We're striving for the best understanding of the problem and, you know, sort of the best solution we can come up with for it, right? My wording may not be perfect, but that's kind of what's on my head, right?
I like what you're getting at there. And I know that it has come up in different
Right.
ways, the conversation. I also feel like sometimes we can disagree passionately and we can still walk out the door at the end and it's not personal.
Yeah, I would hope so.
And I think
Yeah.
that's
we've
the
done-
key.
we've done
That's,
that.
yeah, that's what I mean.
We did that well.
Sometimes more contentiously than others, but we always walk away and it's okay.
Thanks, well said.
You know, some of this guidance is just implicit. We already do these practices.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's fine
Yeah.
to spell it out.
Sure, right. You know, if there's somebody new who comes on, they wouldn't have had the experience of the 60 meetings we've been through together to have gotten to this point, so this might help them, you know.
And I think it points back to the one in the earlier section about how we stand behind the decision of the school committee, but to get to that decision, we
Right.
can have
Right.
the pretty way you said it, but it's not gonna come back to me exactly.
It's on
It's
tape.
in here.
It's on tape.
It's under other norms, beliefs, and protocols.
Yeah.
We going to how we improve section, or
Yes, how we
Yeah.
improve.
is that the last one?
School committee members and the superintendent recognize the importance of professional growth and development, and they agree to participate in experiences designed to further their knowledge and understanding and to advance the work of our public schools. Number 2, in addition, school committee members will participate in formal training organized by the superintendent and the school committee chairperson and conducted by organizations such as MASC or MASS. All new school committees members will participate in an orientation session, and if desired, a school committee mentor will be assigned. We've never done the
We've
mentor
never
thing,
done
that's
this, but I feel
interesting.
like we should totally
Yeah.
work on that.
You think?
Yeah.
If desired, yeah.
If desired, yeah.
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 Maybe put
Well,
if
but I
desired
mean, the
first.
orientation session, we've never, as far as I know, we haven't done. I don't know if you all did an orientation session.
Well, we all have to do the
Well, the
MASC
MASC.
training,
Oh,
the
I
orientation
see.
through them, but
Yeah.
a district, I think it is, there are so many things you don't know when you start that,
Right. I believe Mina wanted to do
she
that,
did,
right?
she did, and we did come
Yeah.
up with a little bit of policy around that,
Yeah.
and I like it, I think it's a nice
Yep.
added.
So maybe begin it, if desired, all my
Yes.
school committee members will blah, blah, blah.
Okay. The superintendent and the school committee agree to set aside a time on an annual basis for self-evaluation and to review our progress toward adhering to agreed-upon norms and beliefs.
Adhering to agreed upon norms and beliefs.
That's,
I was thinking of how Amanda wrapped up the year from a policy point of view. I think that's good. I think it's difficult to have beliefs. I mean, adhering to these norms, that would be good.
Well, these are called norms and beliefs, right?
Oh, they are. Okay. So that's what. How about if we said to this set of,
Yeah.
you know, this particular set of
Yeah.
norms and beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever the
yeah.
title of this is going to be.
Maybe we can create some kind of rubric. And
That could be a little subgroup to bring that back. All right,
Okay.
so are we good to move on
Yes.
to the next one? We recognize the importance of honoring our agreed-upon norms and beliefs, and we agree to take responsibility for reminding one another when we get off track.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Then,
Now it says norms and protocols.
yeah.
I just like protocols more than beliefs. I'm not sure I want advice from anyone on my beliefs, you know?
Yeah,
But these are what we just read through our norms and protocols, how we communicate, how we govern,
Right.
how we improve.
What about norms, protocols, and if desirable beliefs?
Maybe I need a mentor for that. Okay.
do we want any of the little, that final other norms, beliefs, whatever we're gonna call it? Do we wanna just add, I mean, I think some of
Other
these are
than that
implicit.
one.
The what?
Other than that one with the first one, or second one there. Other than that one, I think.
Oh, the other?
Oh, the creating an environment,
Yeah.
that one, yes, so that one will incorporate back.
But other than that, I agree.
think they're
Most
covered.
of them are implicit.
Do we want to take a look just briefly at the last set that we created in 2018 to make sure that there's nothing that we're losing that we want to keep?
I don't think we're losing anything. That one made me extremely uncomfortable. It was so
Yeah.
driven towards full consensus on everything. But I'll listen.
Well, but, you know, we did pull a couple of pieces out as we were discussing this. Is there anything else that people want to pull out, sentences or pieces or ideas? Are we ready to move on?
I mean, I'm okay with moving on.
Yeah.
The only things that I like, just going back to the other norms, beliefs, and protocols, the little footnoted ones, and we pulled out the one that Leah and Jill were talking about, creating the environment for full and free debate. But the two that sort of popped out to me that I think are already in there, but I just want to check. Obligation to represent all students, and I think that is,
Yes.
you know, we had a hard year last year with
Yeah.
that because every student is an individual. So representing a collection of individuals
Oh,
is hard.
yeah.
You're right.
Yep.
But I like reminding us that we have to look at it from the perspective of all of our students. So I like that. The other thing that I sort of circled was the expectations of the chair and other officers. And I think that this is clear, but in the footnotes, I think somewhere here, it talks about the chair as a servant, really it's an administrative servant to the
Right.
committee, but I wouldn't want any committee member to think that the chair is, that the chair does the research or does, you know, something in isolation. I think the chair is one of five, and I want to make sure that we continue that the chair is one of five, and we are all equally committed to everything as the chair. The chair just gets the fun of the admin.
It's primarily an administrative, I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I would hope and expect that if it feels like I am overreaching beyond that somebody would say, you feel like you're overreaching.
So I was actually, and I don't know if this is norms and stuff or something to talk about later, but, and I know this past year was odd, but from seeing how much work the chair has to do, it actually feels daunting to me. Like, I personally don't know if I would ever be able to be the chair because of the amount of work that goes into it, and that feels wrong. Like, we should not rely on, you know, a person who happens to have a ton of free time to be the chair. There should be more of a better delegation of duties so that any person in this situation can be the chair, and one person doesn't hold all that on top of them. So that's something for later discussion. I don't know if it needs to be part of the norms, but it is something on my mind.
It's a policy. We could actually look at that in the context
Okay.
of the policy that identifies the positions.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
And I think we have talked about that before, because you have to be available sometimes during
Yeah.
the day,
Right.
and I can't be, so I've never even thought of.
Right, but it also puts a lot of onus on the few people
That's
who
right.
may be available during the day. Like, if we have 5 people and 3 or 4 of us are in a like high stress, 8 hours a day position where we can't really take those hours off, that puts the entire onus on one person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's not fair. So
So that would be, I think, I like your suggestion that we come
Yeah.
back to this
Yep.
perhaps in a.
absolutely, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then, move on with this to bring it back in an updated document next time for.
Thanks, great.
Thank you. This
Further
was really
consideration.
great.
Yeah, so thank you for sticking through this was multiple meetings to get through to this point. So that then brings us up to new business item 7, which is an ABA paraprofessional request, and that is,
Okay, so I'm making this request on behalf of Dr. Zaleski, Mrs. Bolello, and Mr. Keller. Dr. Zaleski met with those two principals, and in each of those buildings, they have an Empower program, which is designed to offer social emotional supports for kids during the day. And what they have done is sort of looked at the caseload in each building and determined that it would be very helpful to each of those programs to have an additional ABA, special education paraprofessional. Dr. Zaleski has looked at her grants, and what she is thinking about as the funding source is the FY21 rollover from the 240 grant. So we are looking for you to approve that, if you will. That money will move from FY21 into FY22, and the amount for both pairs is $69,826.
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, so that
Thank you.
passes, and that moves
Very
us,
helpful.
and thank Dr. Zaleski for bringing that forward.
I sure will.
Brings us to item B, which is the vote to ratify the MOA with the HTA at the middle school. Do you want to, do you want me to explain that, or do you want to?
I'm just happy to note that, we thought we would be in a different place this evening, but we're still doing a little bit of work on that memorandum of agreement. So I would just ask you to put that off until a subsequent meeting.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So that then brings us down to a vote to ratify the MOA with the paraprofessionals. This is the MOA for their paraprofessional contract for 2021 through 2024. So I would seek a motion.
Motion to approve the ratified
Thank you, Joe. There's a motion.
contract.
Is there a second by Leah? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that carries unanimously. And so with many thanks to the paraprofessional union for working with us on
Yes.
that MOA.
Very successful.
And that brings us into reports. And we'll start with your report.
Okay, thank you. So this is the superintendent's report for Thursday evening, July 22nd. It will probably be a very quick report. We have 3 things to update you on tonight. The high school edition, which Mrs. Rothermick will talk about. Very quickly, an enrollment update, and then just a nice visual to share with you about the exterior of the White House so that you can take a look at where we are with that project, which is coming along very nicely. So I will hand this over to Mrs. Rothermick.
Thank you. So this is an update from our OPM P3 on where we are as of yesterday. So the exterior, the waterproofing has finally been sprayed and will be complete this week. The brick veneer installation is continuing. Once complete, the windows will be installed. On the interior, rough electrical is near complete and will be ready for inspection. Drywall begins once the inspection is complete. General framing is complete and steel construction is ongoing. Lots of cleanup done, floor removal, and last bits of CMU work. And fire protection and mechanical system rough-ins are for next week.
And we are still on track for August, correct?
The goal, or right now, the schedule still does call for final inspections at the end of August. But, as you know, anything can happen.
Oh, yeah.
And inspections are inspections, and certificate of occupancy
Right.
is reliant on that.
Yeah. I was just asking for projection, that it was
Yeah.
still projected to be.
Yeah, I've a similar concern, because I remember at the last meeting, we were advised that, as soon as it stops raining, we'll be able to waterproof. That's the bottleneck. And then I don't think there was a day after that it didn't rain, right? So I would have to guess that we're about 10 days further behind than they hoped they might be at that point.
Well, so keep in mind that the exterior is different, so the waterproofing has been done. And the brick
But I'm
veneer-
just saying that the waterproofing was done later than planned, right?
Yeah. Can they catch up on the interior now that the waterproofing is done? potentially.
Okay,
The
yeah.
nice thing about interior work is it can actually go on 24/7.
Okay,
Exterior is where you're really constrained in terms of what is allowed,
I see.
so.
Great, yeah.
Now, again, there are never guarantees. So, but all of this has been approached with the fact that Mr. Bishop has a plan,
Okay,
so,
great.
okay? So in terms of the schedule, the contract still targets, mid-August to complete the interior. Trades will be working through the weekends to keep the momentum. The brick veneer and exterior precast panels and site work will continue through August. And this just gives you some of the pictures. The exterior waterproofing, 95% complete, and the brick install has begun. The liquid applied waterproofing is necessary to be installed over the exterior brick wall prior to the brick veneer. Since waterproofing is nearly complete, the masons have begun laying brick as of July 20th. And here you can see the brick veneer beginning to go up. And along with that brick assembly includes the wall flashing, the weeps, and the insulation boards. The metal framing for the classrooms are complete. Since the framing is completed, rough wiring for all the wall outlets and devices has continued. Rough electrical inspection is anticipated within days. The classroom unit ventilators are all on site. Gets back to our discussion in terms of materials management. The upper floor framing is complete, and again, the rough electrical is nearly complete. And that's a duplicate, or we didn't go anywhere. And this is just a view from the outside in terms of the elevations and what it looks like.
It's getting there.
Point in time.
Yeah. It's really nice how the shape matches the other wing really well.
Correct.
You can see it's gonna be seamless with the shape and with the way the bricks are.
Yeah, the color, the brick color match was very good. The fascia, we came up, it was a different material, but we were able to color match that. The roof line tie-in was a struggle with existing conditions, but the roof line will look the same, so it will look like it's always been there.
Here's our regular update on where we are with enrollment. On July 8th, which was the last time the committee met 2 weeks ago, we were at a net increase of 163 students. Today we are at 174. So in the last couple weeks, we've just had an enrollment of 11 students. And it, you say, wow, but the people in the central office are like, things are really slowed. So, so it's kind of interesting. We'll see what happens in August, and I know that the committee has asked several times, where are we with numbers? And so at Hopkins right now, each fourth grade classroom is either at 20 or 21. The fifth grade, there are 23 students in each one of those classrooms. At Elmwood, the classrooms range from 20 to 23 students in each of the second and third grade classrooms. And, they range that way because when they're doing placements, they want to make sure that they have the right children with each other and with the teacher and all of that. I don't have the marathon numbers because our friend Mrs. DeBoe has been on vacation this week, and good for her. So I can just share with you the visual of the White House. Here you can see it's getting its final siding. They're making really good progress, and that building is going to look so much better from the outside when people pass by. It's
so much better.
an amazing transformation, isn't it? Yeah. And we've had some conversations too about that second floor and maybe needing it for our 18 to 22. So we'll be exploring that as well. And that's all we have for you.
Questions?
That was so short.
Great. Thank you.
It's July.
This is the summer version.
Love it.
Okay, then that takes us into the school committee chair report. So I have warrants 21-083, which is including your packet and has been approved, and payroll S22002, also approved and in your packet. School committee office hours, so I know we had brought this up last time, we have this Sunday, which is the 25th, reserved at the farmer's market, if people feel like, I know that there are some conflicts, so we have the listening tour coming up, so if we feel like this is beyond what we're able to realistically manage, because I know that not everybody can do it, and I don't want to burn out on an office hours, I guess would be the whole thing, so I know, I'm looking at you because I don't know what your availability is.
Yeah, I'm
in
sorry,
general.
I didn't reply because I was trying
No,
to.
that's okay, but so if you want to reply to me separately, that's okay too, but just, I'd like to,
I was just interested in what sorts of slots you were looking at. Because once again, my mom's here. She would enjoy being in the farmer's market for a little while, but like, you know,
so it starts
hour
at 1.
max.
I am able to do, I am able to do any time. I don't want to do 4 hours though, because I
Right.
have other family things. And Meg is able to do an hour on the other end, so we're kind of sparse in there. But
Okay.
again, we also do have the listening tour, which is going to be a twice weekly opportunity for people to come and be heard in different ways. And we don't have to do, farmer's market, I think, goes in through October, right?
Yeah.
So we also could come back to this if it feels like a lot for the summer. I don't have any,
Should we do that?
yeah, because we are right on the heels of the listening tour, which I think is also really important, and I think that's important to
I'm very
have.
excited about listening to
Me
it.
too, and I think that's important to get in over the summer before
Yeah.
some of the budget and policy things come up in the fall.
I
that
agree.
Definitely.
Will be impacted by that.
Agree.
And I think it's good people are not thinking about school right now.
Right.
I am getting too many ads in my email from things that are back to school sales, and I sort of resent that in July.
Yeah, can we just,
Feels like we just got out.
right.
Okay, so we will come back to that. The listening tour schedule, we had talked about doing Sundays and Tuesdays in August. So we can figure that out. We are gonna post them so that as many people as wanna be there are able to be there, and we're doing those again by Zoom. So that, people who would like to join but don't feel like they wanna show themselves, or they're not able to because of other commitments and whatnot, are able to join in on the conversation.
Are we able to do like a press release? So that we
Yes.
could, because it'll be coming up soon, just to
It
get
is.
the word out to like through the independent.
Yep,
or-
so I am working, and I did not get, but I would like you guys to take a look at the promotional material before it goes out.
Sure. That would be good.
So I will try to get that to everybody by tomorrow at some point. Okay. So the summer workshop training, as you guys know, we're doing the IBB bargaining training in August, which unfortunately, I know that you have a work commitment, but I don't know that we're gonna be able to reschedule that.
No, that's fine.
so
I
that-
figured if I was the only odd man out, that's fine.
But I also feel like we could kind of try to catch up with the materials and stuff to you after the fact.
Yeah, that would be fine.
But-
Unfortunately, it's a customer meeting and I just
I
can't get out of it.
totally get it. Everybody's work and lives have got to be their first focus. So also because of people's vacation schedules, the summer workshop training is not going to be able to be in the summer unless we did it right on top of the other one. So I would like to propose pushing that off to doing something in the fall.
Okay.
All right, so that brings us down, and I did have one communication from a parent who had seen the AAP's new guidance around masking and was expressing some concerns about what we're going to be doing as a school committee. The answer that I had kind of worked out is we are gonna have to obviously, as a district, figure that piece out. But we can't do anything until we've had our final guidance from from DESI, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, and we will comply with whatever mandates, obviously, the state comes out with. Anyway, are there liaison reports? Probably have some.
Yeah, we actually had our first meeting of the ESBC2, which is the committee that was set up to address the educational operational constraints at ELMWOOD School. So that's been set up. Has a press release gone out or is going out or something about that first meeting or?
I believe John Graziano was sending it out.
Oh, okay, yeah. But, that's all. We just had our first meeting.
That's
We elected John Graziano is willing to be chair, so he'll be chair, and I agreed to be vice chair. So, as the school committee representative on the
And you-
committee.
I know you were the chair the last time, but John was also the school committee liaison, if I recall, for the ESPC.
Yeah, John and I worked
Yeah.
closely
Yeah.
together. He was on the ESPC for Marathon, so
That's great.
Mike Shepard is on, and there's a few new members
Yeah.
too. And we first extended the offer to new members if they wanted to chair
Yeah.
or vice chair, and they politely declined, as they ramp up. So, yeah, that's how we're starting off. So our next meeting will be in October once we have. The focus there will be enrollment numbers. Yeah.
Congratulations on your new vice
Oh,
chairmanship.
thank you. If we meet once every 3 months for the next year, I think I'll be able to handle it.
Yeah,
but,
ultimately,
yeah.
I know it does get busier, though.
After January, yeah.
Anybody else with? Okay. This is like an oddly, I don't even want to say it out loud, but earlier than many other meetings, but are there any future agenda items that we have not already put out that we want to get on the agenda in the near future that people want to add? Okay, you can email me too if there's something that comes up, or Amanda or Carol. Then that brings us to items by consensus.
Okay, as superintendent, I recommend the school committee approve the items by consensus as outlined in your agenda.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Meg, a second by Leah. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that brings us down to look for a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yes.
Motion
Look at
by
the
Meg.
time. It's
This
beautiful.
is a record. We did have an executive session, so a motion by Meg to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Leah. All those in favor? Aye. So we are adjourned at 7:57, and our next regular meeting is August 12th, 2021. It will also take place here at HCAM. Thank you to everybody, and have a good night, and enjoy the beginning of August.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.